Time to hook up some cruise control. Alright, cruise control. So I went with a drive-by-wire, pretty much specifically for this. So I'm using the 2003 to 2007 drive-by-wire. If you're using the 2001 or 2002, it's probably going to be different than this, so you can't follow these directions. Real easy. I need 4 wires. Wire number 1 is going to be my cruise on signal. And then this wire from the switch goes to the C100 connector, which is the large black connector on the stock harness. If you're not using a stock harness, you're going to have to figure this out differently. These are basically going to the TAC module, so you can wire them directly to the TAC module. C100 just runs the wiring through to the TAC module for me. So cruise on is C100 pin L. Second wire is the set. And that goes to C100 pin A. Third wire is the Cruise Excel. This just lets you accelerate 1 mile an hour per click, or you can hold it down and it'll slowly start to accelerate. You let off, set your speed. Don't have to hook this one up, but I mean it takes like 2 extra seconds, so why not? C100 pin S. Here's the wiring connector for the stock S10 harness, and you can do this for pretty much any GM vehicle. A lot of them are the same, and really you can do this for any vehicle that has a switch. So I'm using the stock switch on the steering column here because there's no reason to install anything different. So what I'm looking at here, this is GM, and these are pretty much the same for like forever. So this button is your set, this button is your armed. It'll click once, that's armed, and you push it in and hold it, and that is your accelerate. So those are my 3 buttons right there. So that I figured out which button is which, turn my key forward, that just powers all the relays. Then I came down to my connector here, and I've already got these labeled because I've already figured it all out. So like the cruise on is this gray one. So we'll switch over to the gray one. So now I'm in the gray one, and my meter is grounded to the frame. So now if you watch, as soon as I click this on, you see I get 12 volts. Same thing, so you got to have it armed, and then you can test the other 2 buttons, and just look for the wires that have 12 volts when you're using the switches. So those are my 3 wires. I'm going to extend those through the firewall and connect them to my C100. Here's my little cheat sheet, and I made a quick little diagram of where pins go where. And the ones we're interested in are L, S, and A. So then I tied in to those 3 wires I showed you that connect to the switch, ran them through the firewall here. So I've got these 3 wires. And then this is the C100 connector, and I've already got 2 pins put in, the L and the S. So on the sides of these connectors you can kind of see letters sometimes. There's usually just the 2 end letters. So the last pin I have to connect is my accelerate, which is the S pin. So S is actually one of the ones that shows up, and it's right there on that corner. So I took the stock wires, disconnected the wiring, reused the connector. So I'm just using stock connectors. You can splice into a cut wire if you need to. So that just slides in, snaps in there. That's on my wiring. And if you've already wired up your OBD2 sensor, that's the C100 connector. So I'm just going to put my little clips back on. And these just help the wires from, preventing the wires from pulling out. And then make sure everything is seated good. Clip goes on the front. Plugs into my stock harness. So if you watch my other video on how to hook up the brake switch for the torque converter clutch, this is the fuse I used, or the relay I used. And on the relay there's 2 outputs, and for the torque converter clutch I use the center output. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect another wire to the normal output, where when you press the brake it applies 12 volts out this new wire, and that's going to go to the computer. So one end is just the extra connector for the relay. And okay, I don't know what happened, but my dyslexia or something kicked in earlier. I wrote down the wrong stuff. So wire number 4, which is your 12 volt break on signal, goes to the C2 connector on the fuse block, not the PCM. And it's pin A10, not pin 10. So pin A10, this is the C2 connector. This is pin A10 going to the TAC module. This is my 12 volt breaks on. So I'm just going to connect these together, solder it up, stick this back in, then we'll be ready to test. Okay, I'm ready to go for a drive, and this is another example of when HP Tuners is a good diagnostic tool, not just for programming and everything. So on HP Tuners, I set the 3 channels for my cruise control: on, set, resume, Excel. So first I'll test the on button over here. Value change to on. Now I'll hit the set button. Set says yes. I let go of the button, goes no. So that's working. Then we'll check the cruise accelerates button, and it goes yes. So all the wiring's working. Time to go for a test drive. Why's it always gotta be raining when I'm test driving? Anyways, cruise is set. It's keeping me where I want to be. See, all my other gauges have been working great. I don't know why that fuel gauge bounces like that, but I don't know. If anybody's had a similar thing where it bounces, it seems to work fine. Like it goes up and down and it goes to full when I fill it up and everything like that. It just bounces. I don't think it's the sending unit in the tank, but it could be, I guess. Give you a sample of how the brakes are working. They've been working really good. Doing around 55. We're gonna stomp on it here. Stopped. So there you go, just a little sample of the speed and braking. It was all rainy, so couldn't do too much rowdiness, but you get the idea. It's been running great. No real complaints, just working on all these finishing touches. Now that the cruise control is done, I can finally clean these wires up, because I've just been leaving it all open so I could keep adding and removing and doing whatever wires over here, so I can get all that cleaned up. I've got the air conditioning next that I need to hook up. I have my compressor installed. I need to take the front grill back off and then make the mounts for the condenser up there and then wire that in. Once that's wired in, then I'll start taking all that apart. So, coming together.